Hi Renee, this is my active citizen project on Canada's Chocolate Town, so my hometown, St. Stephen, and I'm going to be focusing on the company Ganongs. So I wanted to just do a quick introduction. So Ganongs is a family-owned confectionery company that started in the year 1873 in my hometown of St. Stephen, New Brunswick. And today in St. Stephen, we have the Chocolatier, Chocolate Museum, and we also host a chocolate festival. So it is the first week of August, and it's to celebrate being Canada's chocolate town. And the factory is actually still in town too. So I wanted to do a little introduction on my personal journey with the company. So I've been working for Ganong since 2017. So in that first picture is me when I worked at the Chocolatier. The second one is my job at the museum, and I'm actually in front of my favorite exhibit, the heart-shaped boxes. Then for 2 years, I was assistant coordinator, and 2 years after that, I was the coordinator of Chocolate Festival. So I wanted to introduce you guys to a bit of history about Ganong. So it's a major employer in our town of St. Stephen. It employs a lot of the town members in office and factory, and a lot of people I grew up with and kids my age have worked at the chocolatier or museum, or I've also volunteered for Chocolate Fest growing up. Something really special about Ganongs that I wanted to add in is that it has stayed in the family since it opened, but they've obviously made changes and adapted through the years to overcome numerous events that have happened. But a super important fact when we were working at the museum would always be to introduce each family member that had their time running it, and I think it's been around 5 or 6 generations in the family. So here I just wanted to touch on some social study ideas that I had. So this is an interesting one. So hashtag girl boss. Brianna is the current president of the company and the first woman to run the company. So this company has had so many changes and so many different presidents since 1973. And a lot of women that worked for Ganongs were hand dippers, and they started working at a really young age. So Brianna being the first woman president and the current president is pretty spectacular. And then I was also thinking that looking at photos of when the factory started out to now and working conditions would be something really interesting to look at during a social studies class and kind of even compare the gender roles from then until now. Continuing on social studies ideas, how come companies change over time? So this one is kind of an inquiry question, but I wanted to look back on the company, and even just going back in the past 10 years, we can see how many changes the company has made. So there's been a lot of changings to their packaging, to the way they word how they're selling things. So I thought this would be an interesting topic to touch on. And then also we could go into different aspects of business from a consumer and maybe the president of the business or even a worker. And where do our services and goods come from? So maybe just sourcing out where things come from and kind of their journey to get to us, maybe in relevance of the price. That might be a bit higher, upper elementary, but it would be very interesting to look at that and kind of just show students how businesses stay relevant through changing with the times. This one might be a longer one. I just wanted to add in a collection of pictures that kind of inspired me in social studies ways. So I kind of was thinking this would be a really great discovery box activity, but besides that, I added in a few pictures that made me think. So the first picture up at the top left is a itinerary for Chocolate Fest. So I think I would talk to students about, you know, calendar, how do we plan things, how do we ensure that we have the appropriate go ahead from those above us in the community to ensure we can run our events there. Then the one below that, it's the chocolate mousse saying, "Let's go Lady Spartan." So I just wanted to include that for kind of community sense. So our Spartan girls basketball was playing at Harbor Station for provincial basketball, I believe. And so I just thought that was interesting. And then above the two in the middle, the sponsorship and the thank you cards, I thought those would be interesting to talk to students. What is a sponsor? Why do we maybe make thank you cards? And then the two in the center, the one closest in the box, that's actually the event we made for COVID. So in 2020, we couldn't hold the festival in person. So we did boxes that could be mailed anywhere in Canada. So kind of like, how do businesses evolve through things like that? And then the second picture of the chocolate is a hand dipper. So Ganongs chocolates are either hand dipped or made in the factory. And I thought it would be interesting to look at the labor and maybe the ingredients that go into these two things and compare and contrast them. Then above I have a picture of these shirts, and I thought maybe it would be interesting to have students understand the different aspects of maybe a business. So what symbol do you think represents your community? What do you think your community would buy on a t-shirt? How many are you ordering to ensure that everyone has enough? And then down in the bottom there is a picture from our color run. So it's two girls, the one was pushing the other in the wheelchair, and I just thought that'd be very interesting as a topic of what makes a good friend and how do we make things more inclusive. So some social studies skills that I pulled out from here were access or locate community resources to address issues, determine the accuracy of information considering sources and audience. So maybe how we target our audience in St. Stephen to welcome them to events, to how we would discuss Chocolate Fest in or with someone who doesn't know what it is. Using charts or graphs kind of goes into the one below it, visual sources, maps, graphs, photographs, or artifacts. So there's lots of different artifacts in the museum and online that we could look at. That would be a really good aspect for a discovery box. Compare and contrast. So maybe how the business started out to where we are now. What was the wages back then? What did they do to ensure their employees were happy back then? Developing a spirit of inquiry or curiosity. I think there's a lot of different questions that kids could ask when shown maybe an old chocolate box, the soldier's box that was created during one of the wars. Students might have questions about that. So considering social and personal values and responsible community membership. So what does it mean to engage in your community and represent it? So what have I learned? So obviously I've been working for this company for a really long time. But I would say that my biggest learning moments were during Chocolate Festival. So I want to say that the work that you put back into your community and working for a non-profit actually keeps communities together more than you think. So made a lot of people smile, a lot of people looked forward to it, even traveling, which I wouldn't have known if I wasn't running it. You also learn to be flexible in your planning and open to new ideas, which is pretty central for teaching as well. But I found that was a lot of fun because sometimes we just were on the fly and we just had to change our ideas, and you just become more adaptable. And in such a small town, I've come to understand that a lot of effort that goes into these sort of events and work that is put in by paid workers and volunteers. You can see in these photos just some community members and just representing Chocolate Fest within that. So I wanted to just add this in as kind of a side note, but during Chocolate Fest in 2023, we actually had students that were selling things or creating things come, and they were able to be vendors for one of our events. So you'll see that in surrounding pictures. Some of them made cotton candy, snow cones, bracelets. They were fundraising for different things, and it was really inspiring to see them taking initiative. And I think this would be a really great social studies course, and maybe just talking about like what goes into a small business, where do we source our things from, labor versus how much we maybe charge for things. And so I thought that this would just be interesting to touch on and maybe bring into the school. Maybe there could be a day where students are able to sell what they've made and kind of show what they learned about business opportunity. And then in the center there, it's a picture of a few adults, and I just wanted to add that in because we did a lot of work with libraries, etc. And I just think it's really important to team up with community spots like that. So finally, this is kind of my last slide here. I just added in a few more pictures. The palamine and the chicken bone are really central to St. Stephen, and after leaving St. Stephen, I realized a lot of people don't know what they are. And I thought it would be interesting to maybe take the time in a social studies course to learn about different niche things that other communities have around us. And maybe it'd be fun to have a pen pal kind of class idea where we write about something that's important in our community and then they write about something that's important in theirs and we learn about each other through that way. Or even just like outside of Canada, just things that make communities who they are. So thank you so much, Renee. I'm sorry you can't see my face. I really did try to record on Canva a few times and it was not saving, so I did resort to iMovie, but thank you anyways, and please let me know if you have any questions.